there were a lot of really successful people with ADHD. I joined a business coaching program and started this business on the side while I was teaching. And it was challenging, but I thought, gosh, if I can do this while I have ADHD, I can really help people because if I can figure out how to manage my time and stay focused to figure out what worked, what didn't. And finally, I put together this framework of kind of routines and structures, and it was a game changer. I mean, I went from being all over the place, chaos, overwhelmed, to not just having that one master degree, but I got 2 master degrees, long-term successful career as a level 5 teacher. I'm married the love of my life. I'm a grandma now and a dog mom. And I'm running a successful business all while having ADHD, and got it to the point where I could retire a little bit early.
Are you ready to quit your 9-to-5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. I am a former television producer turned business owner, career transition coach, and boy mom. My mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Hey there, welcome back to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. Now, before we dive into this week's Second Act Success story, I want to read a review left on Apple Podcast. This review is left by Jess1MSW. It says, "This is a must listen. Shannon is an incredible resource for anyone looking to transition to a new career, start their own business, or simply take control of their life and pursue their passions. As someone who was in the middle of a career pivot, this podcast has been a game changer for me. Each episode is filled with insightful interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will motivate you to take the leap and create the life you've always dreamed of." Oh, thank you so much. It is so nice for me to go on and read the comments and the reviews that you as a listener leave. Thank you so much to Jess for leaving that. For anyone who's listening, if you have not yet subscribed to the podcast or left a review, you can go leave a review over on Apple Podcasts and now on Spotify as well. Now it's time to introduce you to Cindy Baker. She has a master's in counseling and over 19 years as a teacher. In the midst of teaching and counseling her students, she started to see the signs of ADHD in herself. Cindy decided to retire early from education and start Cindy Baker Coaching. Through her business, she shares her success secrets that she has discovered in her own journey as an entrepreneur with ADHD to inspire other creative professionals to leverage their brain's superpowers to become positive, prepared, and productive. This is Cindy Baker. Welcome to Second Act Success, Cindy Baker. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
I'm so glad to get the chance to talk to you and really hear about your Second Act Success story. You began your career as a teacher, and tell me about how your career evolved from there.
Yeah, actually, this is third act. I started in youth ministry. When I was single, I lived in Germany and worked for an organization called Young Life, which is an international youth ministry. And they have a branch that reaches out to military kids. So I was living in Germany, working with U.S. kids whose parents were stationed in the Army. And those kids move every 3 years, so it was just a great program for them. Took them on service projects and all that stuff. And then I did start as a school counselor. I have a master's in counseling. And so I just switched over, took some classes to get certified as a school counselor. And then I got in a grant program to get certified to teach English as a second language. In order to get the real license, you had to teach, and they wouldn't count school counseling. So I kind of transitioned over to teaching and ended up getting different jobs along the way. It all ended up in middle school. So a little crazy.
Oh, yeah. I have a middle schooler, so I know that's a tricky age.
So 19 years, I just retired. The last thing I did was I taught 7th grade ELA. So, but about 5 years ago, I guess, or actually before the pandemic, I started to think, I really just want to work for myself. And I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. I started a lifestyle and travel blog. And then the pandemic hit and people stopped traveling and I stopped traveling. That kind of went on hold and I sort of evolved into coaching. As I was working with adolescents, I was working with a lot of kids that had ADHD and their parents. And I kept thinking, I recognize all these symptoms. I only knew about kids getting diagnosed. Nowadays, it's pretty common. You hear adults getting diagnosed a lot. When I was growing up, nobody talked about it except in reference to boys, hyper boys, and you put them on Ritalin and stick them in a corner, you know. But a quiet, smart girl just wasn't on anybody's radar. I was a high achiever, but I was struggling, you know, because I think I was trying to overcompensate for all these challenges that I had, which now I understand are because of ADHD. And, you know, it takes a toll on your self esteem because you get criticized for different things. You know, why can't you just get it together? And I'm like, oh, no. So I finally, as an adult, just figured out that, hey, I can go to a psychologist or at least get tested to see. And they were like, yeah, textbook, you have ADHD. It's like, really? You know, because I always thought, again, as a teacher, I'm thinking of kids who are struggling.
Right.
And I always made good grades. So I didn't fit my stereotype, you know, and now I realize that there are a lot of really successful people with ADHD. So I joined a business coaching program and started this business on the side while I was teaching. And it was challenging, but I thought, gosh, you know, if I can do this while I have ADHD, I can really help people because I can figure out how to manage my time and stay focused. And I did. I tried. I knew about kids, but I thought, you know, I got to learn everything I can about adults ADHD. So I read books and went to seminars and I tried things and figured out what worked, what didn't. And finally, I put together this framework of kind of routines and structures, and it was a game changer. I mean, I went from being all over the place, chaos, overwhelmed, to not just having that one master's degree, but I got 2 master's degrees, long-term successful career as a level 5 teacher. It's the highest rated you could be for 19 years. It's the longest I've done anything, you know.
Right.
I'm married the love of my life. I'm a grandma now and a dog mom.
Yeah.
And I'm running a successful business all while having ADHD and got it to the point where I could retire a little bit early. I'm making it sound simple. It was not simple, but I was working nights and weekends and I tried very hard to give my all to my employer because, you know, that's the ethical thing to do. So I wouldn't work on things except for maybe my lunch break or something like that. Wouldn't work on my business at school, which just made it pile up. And so I had to be very intentional about my time. So I'm very happy to not be doing both now.
So many questions. But once you got your diagnosis, did you feel like it changed anything in you? Because you didn't seem to struggle in your career, obviously, going for your master's degrees and being so involved and such a high level teacher. Did you ever find your routine as a teacher or a counselor difficult for you?
Yes, I didn't know why. I think I just worked 10 times harder than everyone else, you know. So definitely changed the way that I did things. And so even though I was successful outwardly before I got my diagnosis, there was a cost, you know, and there's a high cost. Stress mostly because you're constantly you're feeling like you're a little hamster you're wearing yourself out, running, 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 running. You're not getting anywhere. And I kept feeling like, and not to say teaching's not, I mean, it's a great profession, but for me, I felt like I wasn't meeting my potential. And so I was frustrated. You know, I kept thinking there's something more out there, especially after living overseas and being part of the military. There's big things that are bigger than me, you know. I just was antsy for something else. And so, you know, ADHD people are not good at long-term planning because everything's kind of like now or not now in their brain.
Yeah.
That's why you tell a kid this is due in a week, and their brain says, "Oh, not now. I'm gonna have to think about it. I'm gonna play
Right.
And then the night before, they're like, "Oh shoot,
Yeah.
do tomorrow." You know, and they go crazy at the last minute. Well, that's a stressful way to live, and it's not as effective. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of them do that. They live from emergency to emergency. they procrastinate and they wait until there's this imminent deadline that kind of gives them that dopamine hit and kicks them into gear. And then they'll lie about it and say, oh, I work better under pressure.
So you have all this experience working with children who have ADHD, then you get diagnosed. And what made you think that you wanted to start working with adults? Was it just your own education, learning yourself what it meant to be or to have that diagnosis and how you could better your life? And then you started thinking about how you could maybe help others?
I mean, it was a combination. Once I did start to figure out what works,
Mhm.
I would give other people suggestions or whatever. And I'm like, wait, this works for them too. And they don't even have to have ADHD. These are just great productivity hacks. And
We can all use.
yeah. And then, part of it too was just a business decision. There's so many people already doing things for adolescents that I thought, I want to do something different. Now you hear about a whole lot of ADHD coaches online, but when I started the business, it really was not a thing. The market wasn't as crowded. And I was trying to find something that's different that would make me stand out so I could make money. I didn't want to be a beginner doing what everybody else is doing. But all of that experience working with kids, it comes into play, and the counseling degree and all of that has put me way ahead
Right.
than I would have been if I just started from scratch.
It's a nice thread through all of your experience, all of your education
Yeah,
leading you to where
always
you
been
are.
in helping professions, so
Yes.
I'm not going to get rich off of this business, probably. I mean, who knows? But it gives me satisfaction to know that I'm helping somebody. There's no reason for anybody else to have to go through what I went through. I've already done all the trial and error for them. And so when people come into my coaching program, I could catch them up really quickly, and they
Yeah.
could get results faster and easier with help, because a lot of people they get down on themselves and they think, well, I don't have what it takes. I think they do. That's just nobody's shown them how before.
They need the
So
tools that you can share.
yeah, and it's inspiring, to see that the hope
Mhm.
pop up in their face when they realize there's another way to live. I don't have to be stressed out all the time.
And you started the business while you were still teaching, while you were still working. When did you actually decide to get out of the school building
Yeah, this
altogether?
this is my first year to not be teaching.
Oh,
So I just
congratulations.
retired at the end of
Accomplishment.
last May. So yeah, it was a little bit early. I'm gonna give away my age on your podcast. I just turned
Sorry.
60, which would have been
Congratulations.
full retirement age, but so I was 59 and a half. So it really didn't hurt me that much. But I cut my income in half, which kind of lit a fire under me. I'm like, okay. So now instead of just coaching, I've branched out into speaking. And that's really something that I like doing. And I wrote my first book
Congrats.
so that I was able to do these things that I kind of had on hold while I was teaching. While I was teaching, I could do a webinar, I could lead a Zoom call, things like that. But I wouldn't be able to have this podcast in the middle of the day. I missed a lot of things. But most of the time, I can pick my hours now, don't work at night. I cook dinner for my husband, and I might post on social media or something like that while we're watching TV. And so that's been really good. And the speaking, I think, is just an extension of teaching.
Yes.
I'm a pretty good speaker. I just won a speaking contest, so won first place. So I've been really practicing and trying to go in that. And of course, that's not the only thing I'm going to do, but it would get the word out about my coaching. That way I could help more people.
What do you speak on, Cindy? Is it productivity hacks for ADHD entrepreneurs specifically, or do you speak in other topics?
It's just for mostly entrepreneurs that are struggling with distraction, including ADHD people, but it's not specifically. They're ADHD friendly strategies. I teach people how to work with the way their brain is wired, but it's not just for people with ADHD. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs have those symptoms, that out of the box thinking, the creativity, the hyper focus, problem solving, taking risks, all of that. My keynote speech is called Focusing Your Way to Fortunes. about how to leverage your brain for business success. If you can manage your attention and your focus, you can make more money in your business because you'll have clarity. It's kind of a cross between time management, productivity, and business tips, you know?
Well, as an entrepreneur, I feel like we're so creative that we get one idea and want to go after it, and the other idea and want to go after it. That I see, even in my own experience of having so many different projects I want to work on, that it is hard to focus
Mhm.
on what you want to do at the moment. And therefore, nothing gets done, right? Because
Right.
you're just all over the place. So I'm sure that what you're teaching and what your framework teaches people is to focus. Okay, you might have all these ideas, but focus on this one so that you get it done, can make money off of it, and then move on to the next. Is that right?
Absolutely right. When you dilute your focus and you're trying to do too many things, you don't do anything well.
Right.
I have a method, which is this focused sprint method. It's called Focus, Focus, and it's really 3 steps. You find your energy zone. So you kind of notice maybe for a couple of days, when am I the most mentally alert? When am I the most physically energetic feeling? And when am I not? And write that down. And you want to work on your most important tasks when you have the most energy, right?
Mhm.
Do that first, and then you pick your tasks. And I did not make up this analogy, but I love the illustration of seeing your life like a jar, and your tasks are the rocks, the pebbles, and the sand.
Mhm.
And so you pick 3 big rocks, just 3, that's it, every day. And I like to write them down the day before, put them on my desk. So when I come in, I can focus right away. But you do those things first, and all the other stuff can come later. And then I teach people how to just to focus sprint. I suggest 25 minutes to start, which is kind of like the Pomodoro method.
Yes.
Set a timer and you get rid of all your distractions, put your phone in the other room, and then you pick one of those rocks and you just focus intensely for 25 minutes. And
Mhm.
you might have to put noise canceling headphones, you might have to tell your family to leave you alone, whatever you got to do. And you'll be amazed at how much you get done in just 25 minutes when you're focused and not distracted. And then you take a little break, get up, walk around, and just do several cycles of that. Once you get into the habit of doing it, it gets kind of addictive because you're like,
Yeah.
gosh, I got so much done. And it's motivating.
Cindy, I wrote my book, and my coach, the group I was in to write my book, did that 25-minute writing sprints. And I'm telling you, like you said, it was so great to actually at the end of that feel like, wow, I got a chapter done. So
Yeah.
I
And
agree with
you
you.
had a double whammy because you had accountability as well.
Yes, you're right.
Well, if you can do this with another person, even if it's virtually,
Yeah.
that's even more effective.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I always tell people waiting for motivation is never a good strategy.
Right.
Because it's not going to just descend upon you when the wind blows a certain way. You have to learn how to do stuff when you're not feeling like it and when you're uncomfortable. And when you have ADHD, it's not a lack of willpower or laziness or whatever. We actually have a neurological condition where the dopamine is not released like it is in everyone else's brain. And so other people can be like, okay, I got to do this. I'm just going to do it. But ADHD person, it's like trying to trudge through quicksand.
Oh,
You know, it just feels like, oh my gosh, you know. So sometimes you just have to do the next right thing in front of you, just a tiny little thing. You know, that's a win.
that brings me to really starting a second act. And when someone is ready to make that leap or leave the classroom or create that business, and it's uncomfortable and it
Yeah.
holds a lot of people in that quicksand, and just, I know I want to do it. I know I don't like where I am, but I'm afraid I'm stuck. What if I'm not successful? A lot of your productivity tips can help that person get just a little further over that starting line to
Mhm.
start taking those steps to create that second act for themselves. Just like you did when starting the business while you were working, is let me
Mhm.
test the waters and see. So what advice would you have for someone who's thinking about maybe leaving their job and starting a business, but they have that really crazy fear and they're just not sure that they can get it going?
That's a great question because it's different for everybody.
Mhm.
But I do think there are a lot of gurus out there that encourage people to quit too soon.
Yes.
And,
Thank you.
no safety net in today's economy, that's not a good idea.
No.
And so, but what you can do, especially like if you're in a toxic work environment, you can take that negative energy and use it as fuel to push towards your goal. Now, I was in a good school system, but I really didn't want to be there forever.
Yeah.
And I was frustrated. They changed my job all the time. And every time you change a grade or change a subject you're teaching, it's stressful. And I was like, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
Um, Now they just saw it as, oh, great, Cindy can teach everything. But it was taking a toll on me. But instead of getting bitter and irritated, I just used that. And I'm like, the sooner I can get my business profitable, the sooner I can quit teaching. And of
Yes.
course, part of that too was that I have a very supportive husband. I know I couldn't have done it without him, but you do have to just kind of weigh the pros and cons, and you need some success, financial success, and people in your world before you quit your job.
Mhm.
So if you've not made any sales in your business and it's still just an idea, don't quit your job. But what could we live on? And maybe if we get it to this point, then you can quit it. We can try it for a year. And if it doesn't work, then you'll have to get a part-time job or something like that. That's the thing too. If you have marketable skills, you can always go back to work. I mean, take teaching. There's a teacher shortage all across the country. If you left on good terms and you keep good relationships, you didn't burn any bridges,
Right.
then if things don't work out, you can go back to work. I mean, I know you don't want to, but you can.
I appreciate you saying that so much because I think a lot of people don't want to think about that as an option. But I always say if you're flexible and you don't burn a bridge, that is an option. And you know what? Say that happened, knocking on wood, Cindy, but say a year from now, you really feel like your business hasn't grown to where you want it to be. If that was the case, you can say, you know what? I tried it. So check that box. I tried it. I'll never have regrets. But you know what? I can go back and teach for another couple years and it's not going to kill me. So it's kind of, if you can look at taking that leap with those glasses on, saying, you know what? Yeah, I want to know if I can make it work. And if I can't, it's okay. You leave your one profession to go into something else. You still have those skills and that experience.
Mhm.
I was a television producer. I can still go back and produce TV tomorrow. So you are still that person and can get that job again if you want to. For some people, I think that gives them some reassurance to take the leap and start their second act.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different combinations of scenarios too. Let's say you quit your job and you can't really make enough money in your entrepreneur endeavor or whatever you're doing. That doesn't mean you have to stop your business. You can go back to work and just do it part-time again, but you've learned a lot along the way.
And you don't have to stay in the same job from, college till retirement. You don't have to stay where you don't feel good because you can still try that. You have to see what fits you and your family and your lifestyle too.
Yeah, because the best thing you can give other people is a healthy you. So you have
Mhm.
to look out for yourself. And I'm not going to say I was 100% healthy while I was working two jobs. I was
Right.
tired. I also knew it was temporary. It was a means to an end.
Well, great advice that you're giving. And so you've made this transition, you've got this business, you're speaking, you have a book coming out. What's next for you? If you can look ahead 5 years from now, where will you be in your business?
Yeah, well, I really want to develop the speaking. I want to have more opportunities for paid live speaking events. I do a lot of virtual summits and things like that, but I really want more opportunities live.
Yes.
My plan is that that's book one of a three-part series,
What's the name of the book?
Focus to Fortune, which is also
Mm,
the name of my coaching program. I would see that continuing and growing and helping more people.
great. I love it. Well, where are all the places that my listeners can connect with you?
I'll give you the link to a free course I'll let your listeners have on how to beat procrastination. It's waitnomore.net. But you can put that in the show
Fantastic.
notes. My website is cindybakercoaching.com. It's also my email, cindy@cindybakercoaching.com. I'm on socials, Instagram, I'm CBC_Cindy Baker Coaching. I have a free Facebook group I'll give you the link to as well. I do training for free every week in the Facebook group.
Oh,
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah.
Great. I'll link to everything. This was such a fascinating conversation. I think everything that you've gone through, everything that you teach really can be applied to every entrepreneur, every employee out there to really better their lives and their work. So thank you so much, Cindy, for all that you've
Thank you for
shared.
having me. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.